Welcome in. Saturday night means it's time for DFS Chalk Talk, brought to you by Triple Play Fantasy. And we get it going right after this. Yes, indeed. It's time to get out of that kitchen and rattle those pots and pans, my friend. I am your host, Jeff Mesha. I don't do this alone. I got two of the best joining me. On my right, we got Mikey over in the movie theater again. What's going on, Mike?
Not much. Last week in the movie theater. Next week I won't be here. Then the week after that, we'll be coming from our new digs in Nebraska. So very excited stuff.
Love it. And yes, it'll just be me and Joseph next week. I know we'll be missing Mikey, but we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. In the meantime, Joe, what's going down?
Hey, man, ready to rock, man. It's another weird slate of players available. I feel like, especially at the quarterback position, feel like it's the second straight week that way. So you got the 18-week season now. Buys are a little spread out more. Obviously, injuries, Danny DeVito starting quarterback for the New York Giants. So starting to feel that in these main slates each week.
I tell you, for those who have not joined us before, we do all things DFS, usually FanDuel and DraftKings. So we'll be all over the good, the bad, and the Tommy DeVito, who still lives with his parents in New Jersey, I just noticed earlier today.
But the best quote of that article, now this is coming from an Italian guy who has only left his parents' house literally the day before marriage twice. The best part of that article is the quote that not only that the mom does the laundry, but I come home and chicken cutlets are made for me. As an Italian man, there's no greater sentence in the English language.
It's like he's Henry Hill from Goodfellas. So in any case, as our usual format, we get into our full lineups as well as who we pay up for, who are bargains for. We usually start with who we're paying up for. Mike, as far as who we're paying up for this week, who you got?
So this week I went ahead and went Amon-Ra St. Brown. I think he's going to have himself one hell of a week. I think against that Chargers defense has been stepping it up, but I think Goff and them boys a week after a bye week are going to be able to get things done. I'm actually going to be stacking him up with Jared Goff, as you'll find out later when I talk about my main slate line.
Yeah, I like that one a lot. And actually, I had Amon-Ra in mind, too. It's a guy you really can't get away from this week. And even on FanDuel, he's 8,600. He's still a guy that's going to put up some numbers, I have to believe. Joe, who are you paying up for?
Yeah, I've got Amon-Ra also. The other one is I'm sticking to that same game, and I'm going back to Austin Eckler. Obviously against the Jets, he had 2 touchdowns last week against a very good run defense. Detroit's a good defense, but I mean, we saw what happened when they went to Baltimore. Now they have to take the cross-country trip to the Chargers in LA. And I think Eckler's going to have another great game and hit that end zone once again.
I can't necessarily disagree with that. As far as who I'm paying up for, this is an unusual one. I don't even think it's happened in the history of this show. I'm paying up for a defense this week because we're looking at on FanDuel, I got the Dallas Cowboys at home versus the New York Giants, 5,200. We just mentioned who's playing quarterback for the Giants. It may as well be Danny DeVito with his Subway or whatever the hell subs he's slinging these days. So they're 5,200. Oh, excuse me, Jersey Mike's. Yeah, I'm sorry. I pardon Jersey Mike's for Subway there. In any case, so 5,200 at home versus the Giants. Now, last game versus the Giants, I believe, was week 1. They ruined many people's weeks. They put up 37 points against the Giants, and that was a Daniel Jones-led New York Giants team at that point. In the meantime, the Giants have given up 49 sacks this year, which means you're already down 5.5 sacks to start the game, and it hasn't even gotten going. So just how pathetic it is to see how the Giants have become this year. And I know Joe's a Giants fan. This hurts him for me to say this, but the Dallas Cowboys are truly a must that you have to have in your lineup. Go ahead, Joe, if you have something to say about your Giants.
They're in my lineup too. DraftKings is a little friendlier because they're only like, what are they? The Cowboys are 4,400 on DraftKings, which is pretty much par, once you do the difference. So I just don't see. I love to save money with defenses, but how can't you play the Cowboys? You made the exact point. With Daniel Jones and the Giants offense full strength, the Cowboys put up 37. Not only are they down Danny DeVito, they also have a banged up offensive line. So I'm sure Micah Parsons and this team is going to feast.
You can't get away from them. I have several different lineups. None of them have another defense in there. Another part of our show is we kind of go to the bargain bin and who might be a lower kind of quality, might put up some points. Last week, I know you and I and Mike were discussing earlier. We had Cotterell Hodge last week. We actually called the yardage that he would get. He just didn't put it in the end zone. So kind of guys like that who are lower on the salary standpoint, but might put up some points to go along with your chalk guys. Mike, who you got as far as bargain is concerned?
So my guy this week is Jaden Reed. I know he hasn't been getting the target share that he's been deserving, but I think that team's going to really have to turn it around this week as far as what they've been having to do to play football and win football games. I think Jordan Love is going to have to start really spreading it out. I think Jaden Reed will be a guy that can get open against that Pittsburgh defense with all the focus probably going on Doubs and Watson. So I've got him coming in. I think he'll give us something like call it a 4 for about 45 with the touchdown tagline tomorrow. So not looking for anything huge out of the guy, but for 5,400, I think that's a good return. And you brought up the Pittsburgh defense. I actually don't hate Dobbs against that defense either. I didn't take him as a bargain, but even on FanDuel, Dobbs he's 6,300. There's still kind of a bargain against the 28th ranked pass defense in the league. So I don't mind that at all, Mikey. Joe, who you got?
So I think I'll state the obvious, and especially I think most people are probably looking at Tyler Boyd. He's only 4,600 on DraftKings. So I'll only, obviously no Higgins tomorrow. Chase is looking to be close to a game time call with that banged up back. So Boyd's going to play a more relevant role regardless of Chase status. Obviously, if Chase were to be out too, that's a really interesting game, Houston at Cincy. Obviously, you're not expecting CJ Stroud to mirror what he did last week. That was insane. It was the best single fantasy performance of the season this year. And you got the Bengals, who is the hottest team in football, but they're banged up. So that's a really interesting game to me. I think you got to look at Tyler Boyd, and then real quick, and I've been obsessing over this guy, or I think who you're going to talk about, Jeff, but Jackson Smith. I'm going to butcher this last name. Somebody take it for me. So I don't embarrass myself again.
Mike has him.
Thank you. The rookie there in Seattle playing the third fiddle between Metcalf and Lockett. And, he started slow. Everybody was excited to see him. He started slow, didn't even have double-digit DraftKings points for his first 5 games. But now 3 weeks in a row, he's had double digits on DraftKings. He's gotten in the end zone 2 of those. And last week he was 6 for 63, which is actually better than what DK Metcalf is averaging for the season from a receptions and yardage perspective. So the Seattle team, they're winning. Obviously, they got killed last week. And, I think this is a great bounce back game for them home against Washington. They're winning games, but they're not doing it statistically the way you kind of figured they would. But I think this guy's really starting to breathe a little bit of fresh air into that offense. And for 4,100 on DraftKings, I absolutely think he can get you double-digit points again.
No doubt. And actually, I think we all had Smith and Jake, but like at the start of the year, as somebody to watch out for, somebody maybe to take late in your drafts. So we're just maybe a little bit too early on him, however it may be. But the guy's starting to pan out, at least right now. But the game you were talking about with Cincinnati and Houston is certainly an interesting one. I'm looking at FanDuel. You mentioned Tyler Boyd. I mean, if Chase can't go and you got Higgins out, does that really leave Tyler Boyd as your number 1 wide receiver option?
Who's the number 2? That's a better question. If both Chase and Higgins are out, I think we all know Boyd, but who's the 2 there at that point?
That's a great question, Joe, and hopefully maybe somebody can answer it in the comments after they watch this show. Yeah,
T. Irwin.
Yep, there it is. Yeah.
According to the DraftKings depth chart. I'm not going to lie to you and act like I know who he is.
Trent Irwin. No, we know who that is. He was the roommate of Tommy DeVito last year in Jersey. So they used to do Sunday dinners. So if you guys didn't know that one, yes. So it's just, I mean, that makes sense. It's totally, yeah. So T Irwin, yeah, that he's good. So, but you look at that game, Tyler Boyd on FanDuel, he's 6,200. That's actually not too bad of a bargain. That's not my bargain guy. The bargain I went with Jaylen Warren, Steelers at home versus the Packers. He's 5,600. He was averaging more per touch than Najee Harris. Didn't get as many touches, but when he does, he makes the most out of it. So if you look at it from a rushing and receiving standpoint, if the guy puts it in the end zone once, he's going to get you 70 yards, and that's not half bad for 5,600. But again, we're talking about the Houston game. There's even guys from that game too. Nico Collins is out. So if you look at Tank Dell, you look at Noah Brown, there's some big time value there with Tank Dell at 6,400 on FanDuel, Noah Brown at 5,400. I mean, you can really squeeze some decent guys in and get some chalk guys up at the top there. What do you think, Joe?
Yeah, I mean, Noah Brown's only 3,700 on DraftKings. I mean, that is a bar, and I went with Smith and Jigba. I could have gone either guy, but I will make a lineup with Brown in it at that price. He went for 653 and a touchdown on 6 targets. So he batted 1,000 last week. Obviously, he's not going to do that again, but for 3,700 on DraftKings or 5,000, whatever you said on FanDuel, you get that double-digit points like Hodge last week, 5 for 55. You play Stephon Diggs, he goes for 5 for 55. You lost miserably. You pay 3,500 for 1,000, you go 5 for 55. It's a great play. So, Noah Brown, if he can get us, especially without Nico Collins, get us some looks, hope that since he scores the wave they've been scoring, and you're going to put some, Stroud will be dropping back most of the second half, and you feel like at least Noah Brown can get you some trash fourth quarter points at the least. No
doubt. And you mentioned how tough that the Cincinnati defense has been playing, but even still coming off that, Houston's still going to put up some yardage. So it's a halfway decent play between Tank Dell or Noah Brown. So, but we'll get into our full lineup. So I go with Mike. Who you got full lineup wise this coming week?
Okay, so like I said earlier, I'm going to be stacking that Jared Goff and Amon-Ra St. Brown. So we're going to start off with Jared Goff at 8,000. And we got Jaylen Warren because I completely agree. What a great play against Green Bay. I think he's going to be able to get, it's not going to be anything spectacular, but for 5,600, he's going to do me right. I got Tony Pollard having a comeback game at 7,800. I love Tony Pollard this week. Amon-Ra St. Brown, I already told you. We got Christian Kirk coming in at 6,700, I think, against San Francisco. They're going to have to throw it a lot. I think Christian Kirk's a guy that's going to be on the receiving end of that a lot. Jaden Reed, once again, I like what I saw out of this guy. I think we're going to see a little bit more of a target share start leading his direction, and especially those big plays. I think we're going to get to see him maybe be on the receiving end of a big play this weekend. Dalton Schultz, Houston at Cincinnati with Nico Collins out. Tank Dell, to me, hasn't really surpassed that wide receiver one. I think he needs Nico Collins to have the games that he has. And so I think Dalton Schultz is going to be the guy that is the primary receiving benefit to that loss right there. And then I like Kenneth Walker III at home against Washington, 7,300. Almost consider him another pay up. I think Kenneth Walker has himself a day. And then the Browns at Baltimore. I think the Browns have really gotten their game put back together. And I think they're going to be able to really just kind of show Baltimore, kind of weigh them back as hard as they got laid wasted at the beginning of the season. So give me the Browns this week.
Listen, I can't disagree with that, but I still can't get away from the Dallas defense head and shoulders this week above everybody else. And you mentioned
I didn't have the money for it, so I had to pay down for the 4,100. There's absolutely no flaws in your logic. I do feel like that is a trap game, though. I feel like that's the kind of game that Dallas defense let's get away from them somehow, some way. So,
which we've seen in the past, certainly. And you brought up the Jacksonville San Francisco game. I actually like the Christian Kirk pick. He and Ridley are the same salary on FanDuel. They're both 6,700. You went with Kirk as opposed to Ridley. I was thinking Ridley might have a bounce back. In your mind, is Kirk kind of more the consistent guy over there? What do you think?
I feel like he's the guy that gets the volume play over there. I mean, it seems like he's getting the reads before Calvin Ridley. I know Calvin Ridley had a really good week 1, week 2, and then after that he kind of fell off the table. And it seems like Christian Kirk is the guy that Trevor Lawrence is like really bombing to and getting into those circumstances where he kind of just hucks it up and hopes that it gets help. And with Zay Jones out tomorrow, I think Christian Kirk's is a smash play. So
he's been the pillar of consistency. It feels like Kirk's bringing you 15 a week pretty much. Almost every week is what it's felt like having him in a couple of leagues. That's a really intriguing game this week for sure.
Absolutely, yeah. I think, and I feel like that game script could either go really low scoring, or I think that we could actually see a pretty high scoring game out of that affair. Both those defenses have been having a tough time slowing down the pass, anyways.
In Jacksonville should be interesting. We know that no game in Jacksonville is a home game for Jacksonville, regardless of who they're playing. So it should be interesting. And Ridley, you're right, it's been a bit of fool's gold. We all had high hopes, and then Ridley, week 1 especially, just kind of went with those high hopes and then hasn't done a whole lot since. So we still kind of got people kind of chasing that with Ridley. So, but you're right, Kirk has been a little bit more consistent. From a full lineup standpoint, Joe, who you got?
Yeah, I'll tell you real quick, too, that Baltimore-Cleveland game, super intriguing to me. Jeff, I'm rolling out the Cleveland defense in a couple of my leagues because they've been great all year, and that's who I have. And Baltimore crushed them the first time around, but I just got, Baltimore's been phenomenal, but they've lost to Indianapolis and Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's 5-3. Okay, maybe they're okay, but they lost to Gardner Minshew. I believe it was his first start or when he came. So Baltimore lays the occasional egg. I think, and they were impressive against Seattle last week, but I do believe Cleveland's that's gonna be a hell of a division battle tomorrow, in my opinion. But full lineup. Again, second weird week in a row, in my opinion, quarterback wise. Lamar Jackson's at the top of the list, but he's playing a great Cleveland defense. Myles Garrett's going to be the defensive MVP. He's almost already won the thing with these stats. And then you look, Herbert too for the Chargers going against not as tough, but another solid Detroit defense. And the thing with that alarmed me with him is they beat the Jets 27-6 last week. Herbert had 7 DraftKings points. So Eckler gets in the end zone a couple times, and it's not a shoo-in that you're getting 20 a game from him like you have his first couple years in the league. So that being said, I'm taking the flyer on Kyler Murray at 5,900 on DraftKings. His first start of the year, it's going to be the first time all year that there's some sort of injection of energy in this Arizona team. They have played close games against good teams, throughout the year, not as recently. But against Atlanta, I think it's a good matchup. They're home, and I believe with his legs alone, Kyler's going to get you some points. If Josh Allen and Mahomes and Jalen Hurts were in this 1 p.m. slate, I don't think Murray would look as appetizing, but based on who is available, we're halfway through the league now, the year, so it's really a lot of matchup-driven picks each week at all these positions. Kyler Murray certainly is that for me this week. Running backs, we talked about Austin Eckler at 8,400, my pay-up of the week. He's just a cash cow from an end zone perspective, and I'll tell you what, and I don't know what he costs on FanDuel. I meant to ask you guys earlier. Joe Mixon's only 6,200 on DraftKings. He went for 17 and 20 his last 2 weeks. You're talking about the hottest team in the league. They're going to be without some of their weapons against a Houston defense that's not very good, 21st against the run, I believe. So I love Joe Mixon at 6,200. I expect him to get in the end zone again. I'm staying with that Cincinnati team. I guess I'm really selling myself on Joe Burrow this week. I'm going Tyler Boyd at 4,600. I don't think you can resist that. We talked about Smith and Jigba at 4,100. I think that's another great buy, get right game for Seattle. And as Mikey said earlier, I'm absolutely paying up for Amon-Ra St. Brown. The guy's been, we don't talk about him enough. I know you got your Tyreek Hills, but on DraftKings, real quick, 20-26-33 his last 3 games. I don't know why we're not talking about this guy the way we talk about A.J. Brown and some of these other guys. They got Montgomery back this week too, which just makes them more balanced. Chargers not a great defense by any means. Staying with the Cincinnati game, opportunities where Higgins isn't playing, Chase isn't 100%. Irv Smith Jr., 2,700 at tight end. He went for 326 and a touchdown last week. No reason to think he might not get some red zone targets again this week. The way Burrow in that offense is playing, I'll take the flyer there. I'm flexing Deontay Johnson for the Steelers, wide receiver, 5,400. Guy missed 5 games since he's been back. He's 3 games, 20 receptions, about 260 yards and a touchdown. He's obviously the focal point of that offense, really. We all love Pickens. He passes the eye test, but it is not going well for Pickens there. And Johnson's just getting a ton of targets. And then, as Jeff said it earlier, we're capping this thing off with that Cowboy defense, 4,400 against the Giants. And, Danny DeVito, Liberty DeVito.
No.
You can take every other DeVito probably has the same exact chance that Tommy DeVito has of doing well tomorrow.
Indeed, and I'm trying to find Irv Smith Jr. on FanDuel. Mike, maybe you can help me out. I can't even find this guy's name, but I'll have to look that up later on there, Joe. So,
and one more on Irv Smith. He had 4 catches the week before, so he's at 7 catches and a touchdown over the last 2 weeks. 2,700. Mike said it best. Guy gets you 10 points and it's a win.
I told you, dude, it pays to be Tommy DeVito's roommate. I mean, not for nothing, Jersey, has a reputation. So my full lineup, I'm going with Captain Mayonnaise in his coffee. I'm going Will Levis for the Tennessee Titans at Tampa Bay. He's 6,800. Listen, I'm not saying Will Levis is the next Tom Brady, but I'll tell you, he's had some decent numbers, and we'll see what he does in Tampa. But for 6,800, it's not that's bad as far as a salary is concerned. So, running back. Matter of fact, I'm not even using my bargain in this particular lineup. I used Jaylen Warren in a different lineup. So, another bargain I had is Alexander Mattison at home versus New Orleans. He's 6,200. I know the guy hasn't had the best track record, but Cam Akers is gone for the season. Mattison is the guy there. Obviously, no Justin Jefferson, so you have to think he's going to get some touches there with Josh Dobbs at the helm, and we'll see what he can put up. But I have some confidence at 6,200. Another guy I got some more confidence in is Bijan Robinson at Arizona, 6,600. The guy has not put up 20 fantasy points on FanDuel this year yet. I have to think this is the week. This guy is too talented. And a round 1 draft pick that I can't see him not getting in the end zone this week at Arizona, but we'll see what happens in Kyler Murray's return. So
one more thing you got going for you there. There was a lot of chatter this week about their coach in the play calling and not involving him enough. So normally when you hear that, even though the team dismisses it, all of a sudden 4 out of the first 5 plays is a run to Bijan, and hopefully you're on your way.
I guess we'll see what happens. But like I said, at 6,600 is worth the shot. We all got Amon-Ra, 8,600 on FanDuel. That's a no-brainer in my opinion. And as far as Tampa Bay is concerned, they're home versus Tennessee. I got Chris Godwin. You got Mike Evans, who's 5,000 more on FanDuel. I think Godwin still might have a similar game as Mike Evans. He's 6,500, worth the shot certainly, and could put up some points there. And I mentioned him before, another bargain, Cotterell Hodge at Arizona. I don't know why I'm going with the Atlanta Falcons as my flagship this week, but it's happening. So 5,400. Tight end, Taysom Hill at Minnesota. How can you get away from a guy who's slashed there? He's a quarterback. He's a receiver. He's a running back. I mean, this guy can pretty much put it in the end zone however way he wants.
From a fantasy perspective, if you're a fucking Derek Carr or Alvin Kamara owner, Taysom Hill is kryptonite. You watch, this team is moving the ball. Their offense is way better than I expected it to be this year overall. You're watching Carr and Kamara move the ball from their own 10 to the freaking 5, and then it's gadget play, it's a direct snap to hit whatever it is, and he's just raping them of their touchdowns.
Go gadget Taysom. He's 7,000 on FanDuel, and Joe will like that go gadget reference. That's a throw. At my flex, you asked what his salary was. I got Joe Mixon. He's 7,700 at home versus Houston, so I think that's a great play as far as running back is concerned, especially with the injuries they got going on there. And defense, I can't hammer it home enough. Dallas at home versus the Giants, 5,200. So that's what we got. Full lineups here, everybody. We are back tomorrow morning with the Blitz at 11 a.m. Eastern. Any parting words here, fellas?
Well, we'll be watching a 9:30 game again tomorrow, and it's looking to be, man, I've been trying to put a single game lineup together for that son of a bitch, and holy crap, it's not easy. Mikey,
It just keeps twisting one way or the other, and none of it looks good. Like I said, I think my final daily lineup on that one's going to look like a defense in the captain spot, a defense in the second spot, a kicker, and then some random guy that's going to be 16,000 because I'm going to be able to afford it because of that beginning lineup that I'm going to throw out there. The other thing is Irv Smith is 4,900 on FanDuel. I found him right there on tight end.
I did not scroll further down enough, I guess, apparently on that. So, but yeah, you got Indianapolis at New England supposedly there. Indianapolis, from what I've seen, is -2. The over/under is 43.5, 9:30 in the morning. So it should be interesting, even though I actually say that with all sarcasm. I'm a Patriots fan. I think it's going to be anyway. They're just terrible to watch. But in any case, catch us tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. Eastern time with all your questions. Twitter, YouTube. Look up the Blitz. You'll have the three of us answering all questions that you got. And until next week, we've got you covered.